Hey everyone, it's Tisha. So I put together kind of a short 20-minute video about Niobe. I'm also going to make a part 2, but it may be a couple of days before I get that uploaded. More of a discussion about this video and what I've discovered with Niobe to kind of help you. When was the Constitution first broken? By who and why? Some scholars argue it was broken first on November 17, 1777. I will leave a link below to the article that explains this by the Constitution Center if you want to see all the reasons. But in my research, I feel it was on July 14, 1798, when President Adams signed the Alien and Sedition Act. The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 were a set of 4 United States statutes that sought, on national security grounds, to restrict immigration and limit First Amendment protections for freedom of speech. They were endorsed by the Federalist Party of President John Adams as a response to a developing dispute with the French Republic and to related fears of domestic political subversion. FYI, the Federalist Party was eventually destroyed by the Democrat-Republican Party because of what they were doing to the country. Also note that the Federalist Party was destroyed politically, but still maintained some power in D.C., as we now today know them as the Heritage Foundation. It is vital to understand that the dispute was the money that the U.S. borrowed from the French to win against the British. The U.S. said it didn't have the money to repay the French, so the French were repossessing civilian merchant ships, not government warships. So of course the civilians were really pissed off, which was leading to many protests, and they only became violent because the government had sent in the militia against them. The first rebellion was specifically called Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion was the final straw. A tax protest by Western Massachusetts farmers in 1786 and 1787 showed the central government couldn't put down an internal rebellion. It had to rely on state militia sponsored by private Boston business owners. With no money, the central government couldn't act to protect the perpetual Union. FYI, warning, our government is already starting to rewrite our history. In this article I will show you in a moment, it shows it was a protest by Western Massachusetts farmers, but AI Google is now saying it was an armed insurrection. So Google bent the knee to our government during Biden's presidency, if you're paying attention. So this is what AI Google is saying. Shays' Rebellion was an armed insurrection by farmers in Western Massachusetts between 1786 and 1787. So in this photo I've zoomed in a little bit and you can see our government sent in the militia, military, against farmers and the Revolutionary War veterans. While a few of the protesters are shown to have sticks or rifles, the military has cannons. And so this is from Wikipedia, and it says Shays' Rebellion was an armed uprising in Western Massachusetts. So our founding fathers promised to pay men to fight the Revolutionary War, but then after the war, they tell them they have no money, and they can't pay them. Yet they expect the men to pay taxes. Imagine being in this corruption by our new government who can build million-dollar buildings, but not pay anyone for having gave everyone their freedom. The people who have taken the power of our government since 1798 are not who you think they are. Their detailed historical account of presidential policymaking in immigration began in 1798 with the founding of the American Republic and Congress Alien and Sedition Acts, which included the infamous Alien Enemies Act and the less-known Alien Friends Act. The subsequent inaction of Congress prompted immigration regulation to shift to other channels, including presidential powers over foreign affairs and the use of treaty making with other nations as a means of regulating the terms of entry for immigration. Isn't it crazy that Congress seems to be unable to do anything when our country is falling apart and our people are suffering, yet they themselves are living lives just like the robber barons or the capitalists? A little over a century ago, Columbia University professor Charles A. Beard inserted that all of the founders were in it for the money. Note, he never said they were all rich. He said they wanted riches, like the king. Basically, the Declaration of Independence was the proclamation set forth by the people, not government, of why they would fight together against the tyrant king to create their own system of government. This agreement meant that no person who had been given power by the people would pass laws in which the people did not agree with. They called it no tax without representation. Sadly, we lost our power so long ago that we don't even recognize nor have been educated to see that we are and have been under a dictatorship by aristocrats, aka robber barons. Thomas Paine viewed corrupt government as a significant threat to individual liberty and societal well-being, believing that governments often degenerate into institutions that serve the powerful and oppress the common people. He argued that monarchy and aristocracy were inherently corrupt due to their foundation in unjust privilege and the pursuit of personal power. Thomas Paine was one of our greatest and most beloved founding fathers, who wrote most of the Declaration of Independence, but we are not taught about him. In fact, they have tried to bury his existence and his role. George Washington traveled to Europe to recruit Thomas Paine by Benjamin Franklin's request, to help him get the people inspired and willing to fight against the tyrant king. Thomas did come to America, and his speech, now turned into a book, is called Common Sense. Go listen to it on YouTube. Without Thomas Paine, there would have never been a revolution against the tyrant British king. Paine argued that governments should not be a source of oppression, but rather exist to protect the natural rights of citizens such as liberty, property, and security. Paine pushed for reforms to eliminate social inequalities and ensure justice and equality for all citizens, which he saw as incompatible with corrupt governments. After the Revolutionary War, Paine and Washington had a falling out, and Paine stated in a letter to Washington that Washington had turned against the people and become corrupt. And then our government put a warrant out for his arrest. So, is it so unbelievable to us today that so many of our so-called founding fathers, once they got the people to fight the British military, and that once the war was won and they gained power, that they then became corrupted? Or were they already corrupted by gaslighting or using the people? Think about how we are constantly repeating history. So what has been happening in front of our eyes during our lives does resemble what our ancestors went through. They have just hidden it from us. So our Constitution was broken. Although we all may disagree of when, there is clear evidence it was. And nearly every president since has abused it, if not broken it. And not one has ever been held accountable. So what does that mean for us today? The contract between the people and the government, by and for the people, is broken. Therefore, it's void. So the people who have taken the power and have been exerting it against the people are just tyrants. In fact, if you broke your ego and do some research, you will see that our government operates exactly like mafia boss or cartel boss. And it doesn't matter if blue or red has the power. Trump is not the cause of what we are watching happen. Trump is merely waking us up to what they both have been doing for a very, very long time. There are many books, journals, newspapers, etc. out there for you to read yourself by our ancestors and in their words of how corrupt our government had become, and sadly still is. Here is just some of the secrets that have been exposed. These disclosures have exposed information about secret military operations, domestic surveillance, covert human experiments, and intelligence failures. This article is about the worst secret things the US government has done to the American people. Do your own research. You will be heartbroken at all the things they have done to us. That's what I expose some of this in my own book. Because these tyrants have been gaslighting us and our ancestors that we are a democratic republican, which we aren't, they then have been using the shadow or the dark energy of the planet's zodiacs against us. And some of them may not even realize that they're doing it. So let's recap September 17, 2024 and the historical astrological event that happened. September 17, 2024 was our Constitution, our government's birthday. We had a lunar eclipse in which the transit sun was conjunct the natal sun. In addition, Asteroid Niobe was in transit and conjunct the sun. Asteroid Niobe is about the ego. The ego is merely about your belief system. A belief system is merely what you have been taught to believe. This is the simple meaning of ego. Asteroid Niobe mythology is that she used her ego with arrogance, in that she believed her children were better than anyone else's children. Her arrogance then cost her the lives of her children, her husband, and eventually her own life. In astrology, we see the sun as two things, our soul and our ego, because the two are in fact the same, the ego being the expression of your soul. But this is where it gets complicated. Our egos have been shaped by our education system, our families, our friends, society, etc. In my own research, I discovered that our educational system was transformed in the mid-1800s into a system that makes us believe we are using critical thinking when in fact this element was actually engineered with limitations. In fact, it was engineered to actually put us all in a state of cognitive dissonance. This was engineered on purpose to create society of which would be controlled and obedient. In my research, I discovered that this has been credited to the Persia Empire. However, going back further in history, I discovered this has been done for thousands of years. It was done on purpose. In fact, many of our ancient texts warned us. There are even recent books on this. They call it social engineering. It's called different things throughout time. I just want you to know. And it is an actual degree now within the United States. In my research and what I put in my book, they called it normal schools in America. The Persia educational system focused on creating disciplined and obedient citizens primarily to support military and state objectives. The goal has always been about controlling humanity, to make us slaves, and for us to be compliant to what they want us to believe. There are plenty of stories of proof of this out there, so I'm not going to dive into this. I encourage you to do your own research. You can start with Hermeticism. I am merely sharing with you the knowledge of which I discovered when I finally investigated why the so above, so below was not matching in my astrology. So let's go back to Asteroid Niobe. She takes 5 years to orbit the sun. Since she started this extraordinary lesson for us on September 17, 2024, then what can we forecast that is yet to come? On Saturday, January 18, 2025, she was at 28 degrees in Scorpio. At 28 degrees Scorpio is our Constitution's MC. This is about our leaders. And we know that on January 20th, just a few days later, Trump had his inauguration and took control over our government. On Monday, February 3rd, 2025, Niobe in transit was conjunct Niobe in the natal chart at 6 degrees in Sagittarius of the 11th house. Trump signed many executive orders, assigned appointments. He signed to create a wealth fund of which he says he's going to own TikTok. He sent 10,000 troops to our border to Mexico. He bragged about tariffs. He bragged about the Ukraine-Russia war talks were going well, and he made comments about Panama Canal. So we can expect that all of these things will eventually fall apart because he used the shadow energy and arrogance in his ego. Tuesday, February the 4th, Niobe in transit was conjunct the natal moon at 7 degrees. So this day he met with Israel and then made an announcement to remove all the Palestinians from Gaza, and he signed more executive orders. So eventually this too will catch up to him and all those involved in our government in being complicit in Israel's genocide. But this will be a big emotional disgrace for all of us. We will lose many group memberships, friends, technology, hopes, and wishes over this. So, on October 7, 2025, Niobe in transit will be conjunct the natal North Node at 1 degrees in Capricorn of the 12th house. So what might happen from this? Again, we must understand that this government, no matter who's in power, is using the shadow energy, even if they don't realize it. Capricorn is about being responsible and determined. The 12th house is about endings and karma. The North Node is about moving forward and into the future of something new and different. But the shadow side of Capricorn is being more controlling, more materialistic, more arrogant, more stubborn, more vengeance, and a greater lack of empathy for others. So it's important to understand that the 12th house rules over confined spaces, such as prisons, jails, hospitals, etc., places of which people are confined. It is also about what's hidden, limiting beliefs, and the subconscious. Again, I just want to remind you that it doesn't matter who is the leader. This is what we can expect, is more confinement, loss of the materialism we value, more suppression of our belief systems, more things being hidden from us. Capricorn rules the following, so we can expect losses in these areas: civil servants, economy, farms, government activities, integrity, lands, lead, manufacturing, lumber, minerals, coal mines, old age, people, organizations, politics, real estate, and even time. But know this is the house of karma, so whatever they do to us or upon us eventually will come back on them. So do not give up hope. This war has just begun. It will end on July 4th, 2029, when Niobe returns to their natal Virgo sun. Yes, you heard me right, July 4th, 2029, which is our birthday, we the people. And this is our natal chart, we the people. And as you can see, Niobe will be conjunct our Neptune over the 10th house, which I believe this is, if we are out of ego, we cannot be deceived any longer about our leaders. So how do we win? Well, what Niobe has shown me is we each must shatter our own egos, which means everything that we have been taught has been done so under deception to control us. An enemy that you have been taught does not exist is already here and is here to destroy us all. To see this enemy, you must let go of what you think you know because you have been told what to believe. You must open your mind. It's one thing to be told to shatter your ego and quite another to figure out how to do it. I know because I have been trying to do this for decades. So I can help you. I've put together a one-day class. We will meet up on Zoom for about 8 hours with a limited class so that you can ask questions. By teaching you how to truly critical think without limitations and cognitive dissonance, the blocks on your ego will shatter and your left and right brain begin to work together in a way that will blow your mind. This is the true fourth dimension. I will even teach you how to truly connect with your own true guides to receive true information so that you avoid the false guides that have been controlling our astral field and giving false information. If you're interested, simply email me at aquariusbuilderusa@gmail.com. Classes start October 12th. 8 hours to 9 hours of learning for only $60 per person and limited class space. There's 2 dates to choose from, Sunday, October the 12th or Sunday, October the 19th. So here's kind of an outline of the schedule. So classes will be on Zoom, so you must have a way to be on camera and a microphone to participate. You also need to ensure that you have a quiet place without interruptions so that you can participate. And so once I get your email, I'll send you an email with all the instruction. And to help you, I'll even add a free bonus. I'm going to add one more class for October the 26th at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, which anyone who wants to attend, and then we'll go through your current or your upcoming solar return chart with the group to help you navigate your soul lesson. Question everything. Do research. Go down the rabbit holes to find your own answers. This is a good book to start with if you want, and I would definitely suggest you read this one. The best way to use our current changing energy is to get involved with charity work and learn by unlearning what you have been taught to believe. Read books or watch videos that challenge your current belief system. Sending you big hugs and blessings.